invite His Excellency to officially open this. Dr. Belio Kipsang, kindly put your hands together.
Asante sana the CEO, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, His Excellency Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, the President of the Association, Patrick Akekan, the executive members of the Association, our Chairperson of the Examination Council, our Chief Executive, the CEOs of the various examination boards, delegates who are here today, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I would want at this early juncture to convey the apologies of my Cabinet Secretary, who was not able to join us this morning because he was held up in other duties in the country. So once again, I would want to take this time to most sincerely welcome you all to Nairobi and to this 39th session of the conference, one of the most important annual events of the calendar of the examination boards and stakeholders in Africa. We are excited today to host the entire Africa fraternity through the Kenya National Examination Council. I wish to thank the CEOs and our sister examination boards for your consistency and ensuring that every year we have always had representations from your institutions as we process our examinations, both as observers and also being benchmarks in what we do and what happens in your countries before we release our examinations. I would want to most sincerely acknowledge the unity among the members that is evident in the last 6 years, as I've already mentioned, that you've always been with us as we process our examinations. I would want to confirm that we've had representations from all the regions of our African examination board. So once again, thank you very much. As the Ministry of Education, we don't take this unity for granted, as it has been a pillar in ensuring that the standards of examinations in Kenya are maintained at global standards. The impact of the association in facilitating member institutions to uphold best practices in educational assessments through sharing experience is evident, and as we have also seen as a country, the reason as to why the government of Kenya was very quick in approving this particular conference to be held here in Nairobi. Ladies and gentlemen, education is a human right and a powerful driver of development. One of the keys for a successful educational system is the type of assessment, both at formative and summative levels. As we gather here today, this week, we must ask ourselves whether the educational assessments in Africa is giving us the desired results and spurs economic development. As I saw that particular program today and the list of delegates that are there, I can for sure say that we are quite impressed by the rich professional credentials indicating that we can dissect and deal with our own issues as a continent when it comes to issues examinations. It is therefore clear, once again, that we have the expertise to resolve African challenges. The institutions should create a research center that will be able to spur issues of assessment, learning in all areas that we deal with as an African continent. I think this is so important, and I want to pray and hope that one of the resolutions that will come out of this particular conference, the 39th conference, is that we must be able, as an African continent, to create a center of excellence in research, in all issues that pertains to assessment. And as we move forward, I think as a country, we shall be available to work with you towards meeting that objective so that we can be able to continuously be at speed with what is happening both here in Africa, globally, because as already mentioned by the CEO, issues of assessment are so critical in defining how the country deals with its own issues. Once again, let's come up with workable solutions. And I believe one of the solutions that we need as Africa is that we must deal with the issues of trust deficits when it comes to management of examinations. We must deal with trust deficits so that we can trust ourselves that we can be able to do examinations end to end. From teaching, from preparing items, from, if they must be printed, from printing those items, to administration in classrooms, to taking them back for marking, to issues of grading, issuing of certifications. So these are critical things that we want to believe out of this conference that this will come up. The theme for this year's conference, Educational Assessment for Nurturing Every Learner's Potential, is quite relevant, more so to us, ourselves in Kenya, as we implement educational reforms. I want to challenge the Kenya National Examination and all of us here to exploit this opportunity of hosting the conference to interrogate both the strengths and weaknesses of our educational assessments here in Kenya and in the African continent. This will enable us to come up with solutions to our challenges in assessment of our learners. Ladies and gentlemen, assessment is a key pillar in teaching and learning. Thus, as we congregate here for this one-week conference, let us use this opportunity well and ensure that we share the best practices in educational assessment. I wish to take this opportunity to commend the Kenya National Examination Council for the timely hosting of this conference in Kenya as we transit to our competence-based education. And I would want to assure the Kenya National Examination Council and the entire delegates from Africa that the Ministry of Education and the government of Kenya will support the resolutions that will come out of this one week's conference. Finally, so that I don't take so much time today, it is the time for our Honorable His Excellency the Prime Cabinet Secretary to give us his comments. I would want to say finally, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to Kenya. We say Karibu to Kenya. This is one city where we host a national park within the city. This is one city that you'll be able to see the big five within the city. So while you are here, I hope this good friend of ours who is hosting you here will not tie you in to Safari Park, that he will give you time so that we can be able to sample what is in this country. I would want now to call on all of us to be upstanding so that you can help me to welcome His Excellency Honorable Musalia Mudavadi to make his remarks and officially open this conference. Karibu sir.
Thank you. Please be seated. The Principal Secretary, Dr. Belio Kipsang, the President of the Association of Educational Assessment for Africa, Patrick Aragan, the Executive Committee members, the CEO of the Kenya National Examination Council, David Njegere, the Kenya National Council members, CEOs from various institutions, ladies and gentlemen, please permit me, before I make my formal remarks, to say good morning. Hamjambo. Karibuni Kenya. Now, Mr. Chairman, let me also just say a few things that are not in the formal remarks. First, I'm so relieved to be standing in front of examiners because in the past, facing examiners was a problem. It was quite an experience. So I'm happy that I can stand here, this time not to be examined or assessed. So there's a sigh of relief in me. You know, when you talk about examiners, and this is on a lighter note, perhaps in the past, and maybe still in the present, after the police and the judges, the people you dread most are examiners and assessors. Therefore, when we stand before you in such moments, it's a sigh of relief. And equally, when one looks at the logistics that you normally have to manage to get the millions and millions of young men and women across the continent to be able to go through this very important process, then you really deserve a lot of applause and salutations. In Kenya, there are two institutions that go through some very challenging logistical processes. One is the electoral body. When it is conducting elections, the logistical task is a nightmare. Later on, the outcome is either settled in some court of law or some other way, and they say that if you didn't get it right, there was rigging. The other one is yours. I think your logistical assignment is usually bigger as assessors, because you're actually reaching out to even more people at the end of the day. And luckily, the role of the assessors and examiners has not really ended up in petitions, which means you do something right. The final thing that I want to say is factual. Before Dr. Njegere became the head of the Kenya National Examination Council, believe it or not, my first employer was the Kenya National Examination Council. After I had done my A-levels, my first job was in the famous Mitihani House, which was in the city center. And at that time, the head of the institution was called Macau. And I was employed for about 9 months, waiting to join the university. And my salary then was a cool 950 Kenya shillings per month, which at today's exchange rate would amount to $8 per month. So I have a history with you. So ladies and gentlemen, let me make my remarks. It is an honor to have you congregate in Kenya for the 39th Association for Educational Assessment in Africa. More than anyone else, you need no telling how the conference has contributed in changing assessment practices in member countries for nearly 40 years now. All that remains is to appeal to member countries to institutionalize the sharing of best practices and rich learning experiences to improve assessments. I am proud to announce that Kenya, represented by the Kenya National Examination Council, apart from being, has actively participated in all conferences since inception of the IEAA. Kenya has hosted 4 previous conferences in 1993, 1998, 2001, and 2011. This is the 5th conference we are glad to host. Having a bird's-eye view of Kenya government activities, I confirm to this conference that key recommendations from the previous 3 conferences have laid a strong foundation for regional integration discussions. Kenya now works with most countries on comparability, complementarity, and transferability of certificates for continuity of study in Kenya. Kenya has also institutionalized the use of school-based assessments so that learning is informed by prompt assessments, feedback. The theme for this year's conference, Educational Assessment for Nurturing Every Learner's Potential, speaks to this transformation. Indeed, this theme is also timely for Kenya since we are in the midst of transiting to the new educational system of competency-based assessment, CBC. While we are faced with emerging challenges resulting from technological advancement and appropriate assessments for CBC, we look forward to best practice takeaways from this conference that will guarantee no learner is left behind on account of assessments under the CBC. Allow me to also speak to the 39th conference sub-themes, where I see a web of immediate interministerial engagements and synergies required to actualize key conference outputs. The sub-themes are relevant and resonate with the experiences of many education systems, as is affirmed by the number of education experts and their research presentations. I single out the sub-theme on the role of assessment data in informing teaching, learning, and policy, which I am the highest number of presentations from 17 countries. From a Kenyan perspective, we have placed a high premium on research and the use of empirical data to inform policy and practice. Consequently, the recommendations from discussions around this sub-theme will require the cross-engagement of the Ministries of Education and ICT, Kenya National Examination Council, and the Teachers Service Commission. This scenario may not be unique to Kenya, as each country will have to work on the domestic mutations, but with focus on regional complementarity. The sub-theme on enhancing technical, vocational, and occupational assessment, including recognition of prior learning, has stimulated my interest. This is for the reason that in Kenya, the technical vocational education and training subsector has been undergoing reforms since 2008. These reforms culminated in the enactment of the Technical Vocation Education and Training Act number 29 of 2013. The Act provides for the establishment of a TVET authority for regulation and quality assurance, the establishment of the TVET Curriculum Development and Certification Council to develop curricula, assess, and certify TVET qualifications, and authorizes the techniques as qualifications awarded. It is my hope that the discussions under this sub-theme will enrich can be more compliant with the needs. Ladies and gentlemen, reason straddles my curiosity on the same sub-theme because through the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, the Kenya government is committed to increase GDP from 7.2% to a double-digit one by 2030. For a key driver, like the manufacturing sector, we have identified TVETs as the enablers. TVETs are expected to provide skilled manpower to remedy the skills gap currently being experienced. Kenya has also embarked on a digital transformation that envisages the provision of digital jobs because of dwindling white-collar job opportunities. This calls for leveraging ICT in learning, teaching, and assessment. Our desire is that learners are agile and ready to embrace the needs of the 21st century workplace. We therefore hope to benefit from conference discussions on leveraging ICT in assessment. I am famous for tusidanganyane collab, a Kiswahili phrase cautioning Kenyans that let's not deceive one another. I reiterate it here to emphasize that no other profession demands for integrity, honesty, and ethics like the psychometricians, educators, and researchers attending this conference. You are the professionals who determine the true abilities of every learner system. You determine the fate of countries whose most crucial asset is the human resource. Governments rely on products you have molded to make investments, policies, job placements, reviews, and reforms. Kwa hivyo, tusidanganyane. While discussing the sub-theme, managing the social educational effects of higher education stakes assessment to ensure equity and fairness. Delegates, climate change has occasioned destruction and calamities from the unrelenting forces of nature. Humanity is on the verge of destitution, thanks to constant threats of droughts, flooding, unpredictable rainfall patterns, outbreak of diseases, and infestation of pests. Rapid behavior change measures need to be taught, practiced, and assessed progressively in our education systems to systematically change citizen behavior in these adversities. Schools and colleges should become the best spaces for measuring the innovative ideas to counter the effects of climate change. As the early bird catches the worm, we therefore owe it to ourselves and future generations to inculcate in the young the ethics of living as one with nature before it is too late. Again, nature has its lessons that should help us out for the future generations. I hope that in this conference, climate change awareness, nurturing innovations, creativity, and technology for sustainable development will find place in discussions and pragmatic recommendations. Meanwhile, I am informed that you will have opportunities to visit some parts of magical Kenya. We encourage you to enjoy the tours and, if possible, extend your stay to sample even more destinations than what has been planned for. Plant at least one tree while sightseeing in Kenya. We have set the pace against climate change in Kenya. The special presidential program on accelerated restoration of forests and rangelands launched provides opportunities. This was in December 2022. Provides opportunities for the participation of youth and women in tree growing campaigns. Over the next 10 years, we will plant 15 billion trees, create 320,000 direct jobs in seedling production, tree planting and maintenance, thinning and pruning, maintenance of forest roads and fire breaks, community scouts, forest rangers and foresters. Those must have increased awareness that will sustain such efforts. I appreciate the Ministry of Education and the Kenya National Examination Council for the good arrangements, the sponsors and the partners for their support in financial, technical, and technological resources that should make this conference a pleasant experience. It is now my pleasant duty to declare the 39th IEAA conference officially open for fruitful discussions. God bless Africa and you all. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much, sir, Your Excellency. Let us celebrate him once again. Asante sana for those very inspiring remarks. You have put us on the right footing for the rest of what is before us. Just before we allow you to leave us, sir, allow us to just take you through some very quick, brief items. First of all, let us just very quickly introduce to you the delegations, and I'll be very, very quick. Azerbaijan, where are you? Azerbaijan? They are somewhere there at the back. Australia? Yes, let's celebrate Australia. Belgium at the back right there. Botswana? Very good, Botswana. Burma? Okay, they are somewhere within the environs. Cameroon? Very good. Canada, Ethiopia, thank you. Eswatini, very good. The Gambia, asante sana. Ghana, Kenya, Malawi, very good. Namibia, Netherlands, clap for them. Nigeria, Sierra Leone, I saw Tanzania, asanteni sana. United Kingdom, Thank you. The United States.